This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the Minister, the Director of CSIS, when he appeared at committee on Tuesday, confirmed that the issues management note of CSIS that warned that MP Chong and his family were being targeted by the Beijing regime was sent to the Deputy Minister of Public Safety. What happened once it reached the Deputy Minister?
Madam Chair, I want to thank my colleague for the question. I think as you said, Mr. Cooper, you heard the CSIS Director indicate his intentions about that memo. You also heard very clearly from my predecessor, the Public Safety Minister at the time, Minister Blair, say that he did not receive that memo. What I can assure you, Mr. Cooper, and to the members of this committee, is that through the ministerial directive that I have recently signed off on, that we have strengthened the ability of elected officials to be briefed on these issues.
That's fine. Just say you can't answer it. What happened once the memo reached the Deputy Minister of Public Safety?
What I can tell you is very clearly the intention of the CSIS Director and the fact that Minister Blair did not receive that memo, but that has been addressed through the ministerial directive that I have implemented.
To your Deputy Minister. So have you instructed your department to open an investigation to find out what happened to that memo once it reached public safety? Yes or no?
Madam Chair, we have addressed this issue through the ministerial directive, which requires CSIS to directly brief me where there is foreign interference in parliamentarians as well as the Prime Minister.
So I take it from your answer that the answer to that question is no. So for you, Madam Chair, Minister, when you last appeared before this committee on April 27, you said unequivocally and without qualification, quote, "The RCMP has shut down the so-called police stations," closed quote. We now know that that isn't true, at least as of April 27th, when you appeared before this committee. The Beijing United Front Work Department organizations that host 2 illegal police stations in Montreal have said that no action has been taken against them. Jody Thomas, the Prime Minister's National Security and Intelligence Advisor, told this committee on June 1st, when asked how many illegal police stations are still operating, she answered, quote, "We are aware of 2 in Montreal, and work is being done to ensure that they cease to operate," closed quote. That means they were still operating as of June 1st, contrary to what you said on April 27th. Why did you tell this committee the opposite of what is true?
Well, the first thing I want to make abundantly clear, Madam Chair, and to members of this committee, is that the RCMP have consistently said that they have been on top of this issue by disrupting foreign interference activities in relationship to the so-called police stations. Now, Madam Chair, as you know, that does not mean that there may not be future efforts. But I am confident that on the basis of the authorities and the resources that we have provided to the RCMP, they will be vigilant. And you've heard most recently from Commissioner Duhaime, who appeared before this committee himself, to confirm that the foreign interference activities in regards to these so-called police stations will continue to be disrupted in a timely way.
Minister, with the greatest respect, through you, Madam Chair, you can't talk your way out of this. You made a statement on April 27th. You didn't provide any qualifications. It was an unequivocal declaration that all of the illegal police stations were closed. Jody Thomas, when she appeared before this committee, contradicted exactly what you said. And I did listen to the RCMP when they appeared before this committee 2 days ago, and upon pressing the RCMP, they appeared to acknowledge that at least one of these stations is still operating and an investigation is underway with respect to the other in Montreal. So you provided this committee with inaccurate and incomplete information in what I would submit, with the greatest of respect, was a deliberate attempt to mislead this committee and mislead Canadians about illegal police stations operated by Beijing on Canadian soil. Respectfully, Minister, how can anyone believe anything you say?
I stand by my statements before this committee. The RCMP have been clear and consistent in regards to these foreign activities in relationship to the so-called police stations. Madam Chair, I encourage all members of this committee to continue to listen to the RCMP because they are providing timely, accurate briefings. They carry out those operations in a manner that is independent from the government, but I am confident that the government has provided the RCMP with the tools and the resources and the authorities that are necessary to deal with these foreign interference activities.
You misled this committee, and that's a fact. And I would submit no one can believe anything you say. How many arrests have been made in connection with Beijing's illegal police stations? Just a number.
Madam Chair, I'm pleased to reiterate what Commissioner Duhaime told this committee just a couple of days ago, I believe, which is that they are advancing approximately 100 investigations in regards to foreign interference.
Arrests have been made. You know the answer to that, Minister. The fact that you're unwilling to say it, I think, speaks volumes to your unwillingness to come here and answer straightforward questions. So how many have been arrested?
Madam Chair, a couple of points because I want to be responsive to my colleague's question. First, the fact that there are 100 investigations ongoing reflects how serious this is. But second, the fact that
I'm going to pause because, you know, Mr. Cooper, I was actually going to give you the floor back because the beep beep went off. I'm like, oh, he's kind of hearing what I'm saying. It's taken a bunch of meetings, but we're getting there. Awesome. High fives. I'll throw you back the floor, get you to get one more question in. We go on our way. We hear the beep beep beep. You know what my reaction's going to be, and then it's almost like you like it.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the Minister. Minister, do you know what an issues management note is?
Yes.
Is that your final answer? I'm jesting.
Okay.
So already you're ahead of your predecessor, who is now verbally sparring with CSIS over the information exchange that should have happened in relation to MP Chong. So prior to issuing your ministerial directive, can you tell this committee how many of your issues management notes you've personally read?
Madam Chair, I want to thank my colleague for the question. I obviously briefed routinely, weekly, often daily on issues. The point of the ministerial directive was to ensure that there's good intelligence, stronger intelligence flow from our officials to the elected branch of government. So we feel as though we've strengthened internal governance on that point.
So my specific question is, you've indicated that you know what an issues management note is. They've been around, according to CSIS, since 2015. My specific question is, do you see each issues management note issued to you by CSIS? Yes or no?
I will see issues management notes. They take different forms. Some come directly from the department. Some come directly from elite agencies. Some come directly from my staff. What's important is that there is a dialogue and there is a flow of information so that in my capacity as Minister of Public Safety, I can appropriately be upfront with Canadians about any issue that touches on national security or public safety, and that where appropriate as well, I exercise certain ministerial authorities to protect Canadians from issues like foreign interference as well.
So in the context of being upfront with Canadians and establishing the credibility of what's being said here so that we can formulate a report and have proper recommendations going forward. Minister, in January of 2022, you talked about getting advice from law enforcement asking for the triggering of the Emergencies Act, which we found out not to be true. In October of 2022, you had an issue where you misled a federal judge by backdating documents. In January of 2023, you had an issue about the safe third country agreements working effectively and miscommunicating that to Canadians. In April of this year, you had to scrap your amendments to Bill C-21 after saying you weren't targeting law-abiding hunters. In May of this year, you indicated that CSIS never shared intelligence that the communist regime had targeted Mr. Chong and his family, which we now know is not true. In May of this year, you talked about police stations still being open, which is, we know now, categorically wasn't true. And now we know that not only did the Correctional Service of Canada tell your department and your ministry in May of this year, but you were also CC'd on that same memo from your own boss, who forwarded it on to your department or your ministry. And last night, reading through Twitter, your boss and through the Prime Minister's office has said that they sent you that same note, and there was no indication, according to this reporter, that you responded to the Prime Minister's office, and that the Prime Minister's office found out on the 29th, the day before you said you found out on the 30th, that Paul Bernardo was being transferred from a maximum security prison to a medium security prison. It is.
Point of order,
I'm
Mr.
I'm trying to establish credibility of the witness, Madam Chair.
This isn't a courtroom, but okay.
Point of order, Mr. Turnbull.
Madam Chair, it's the same point of order as last time. I just wanted to ask for relevance. I don't know how Mr. Culkins thinks this is relevant to foreign interference, which is what we're here to study, but I'd really like to know how this is relevant to our current study.
So I was just waiting to see where the question was landing, because Mr. Culkins has been around a long time, so he knows how this works. And I was hoping that we were coming back into it. So perhaps that was the case, Mr. Culkins?
The issue is the information that's being shared is being blamed not only by you, but other ministers of the Crown as not getting the information. There is no doubt in my mind, Madam Chair, that the minister had the information about this transfer and had the information about all the other things pertaining to Mr. Chong and every other issue I said. So given that, Madam Chair, I'm going to ask the minister if he can do the one thing that I think he knows he should do. He has a microphone in front of him right now. With all of the issues that have been caused under his watch and the issues specifically pertaining to my colleague, Mr. Chong, will he do the honorable thing and resign right here, right now?
Madam Chair, I'm focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is doing my job to protect the safety and security of Canadians. That question is so is riddled with inaccuracies and falsehoods, it doesn't even begin to warrant an answer.
Thank you. I will just say because I love watching The House because I'm cool and hip like that, I do believe that we are actually, a motion was moved in the House on a similar topic, which means the Chamber is seized with that issue. And here I would ask that we try to get to a response to the question of privilege from our colleague and to foreign interference in elections. But I can just try.